Now, often when in the studio, I have the next guest, a young Tom Slater, sitting in the studio with me, giving his tuppence worth on all the news. Well, this time, he is in the news. He is the subject of the news. Tom Slater is editor of Spiked Online and joins us right now to talk about, well, turns out you've been cancelled, Tom.
Yes, and our documentary about free speech, no less, has been cancelled.
Indeed.
So
well, look, I mean,
the irony wasn't lost on us.
No,
definitely.
indeed. I mean, you know, well, by an inclusive cinema chain. We talked about it on the show because, and again, you know me, I don't blow smoke up anyone's backside. I think it's genuinely brilliant documentary. The sort of documentary BBC Panorama used to make when they did good ones. And they didn't just make stuff up that people had said about, you know, all the different cases of where people have been, you know, basically investigated just for, you know, just going about their daily, completely lawful business and be investigated by the police and really been quite, you know, had some pretty harrowing experiences. And you've delved deep and spoken to people at length. And it's an absolutely fascinating documentary. I do advise anyone to go and look at your website and your Twitter feed to go and look at it. But you were going to do basically a screening next Tuesday, I think it was, and you'd booked a cinema and everything was fine. And then what happened?
Yes, exactly as you say, we were going to have the screening and a Q&A for the documentary Think Before You Post. Everything was all lined up, tickets were selling well, we were looking forward to a great night. And then on Tuesday evening, the venue, Rich Mix in East London, sent us an email saying that they would be cancelling the booking because the film and the event did not align with its values. So clearly free speech isn't one of those. They suggested that the content of the film and the speakers on the post-screening Q&A were not known to them. I let people make their own minds up, but the documentary was already out and all of the speakers who were booked to speak were in the film itself. So
I mean, these weren't controversial people. I mean, there were people like, you know, Allison Pearson, a Daily Telegraph columnist, an ordinary couple. I mean, people who've been found to have done nothing wrong, who just were exercising perfectly normal, routine speech that other people would exercise in their daily lives.
No, you're exactly right, Julie. That's a real theme of the film. Of course, we should stand up for free speech regardless of who's spouting what. But one of the key themes of this documentary was that you had a journalist in the form of Allison Pearson, you had two concerned parents in Boreham Wood, and a former soldier in Wales who were all really put through the ringer, visited by police, in some cases arrested. In the case of Jamie Michael, the former soldier, held on remand for 17 days, despite having said nothing hateful whatsoever. So to cancel us and to imply that this is some kind of questionable exercise that we're engaged in was particularly ridiculous, I would say.
Well, exactly. So, I mean, when you got this message from this supposedly inclusive cinema, who do have some quite ridiculous things. I mean, on their actual on their website, they say how inclusive they are, but they informed you by email saying, since confirming this booking, you say it's come to light that the content and speakers featured do not align with our values and missions here at Rich Mix. Our founding objectives are to support marginalised communities, primarily communities facing racial inequity, promote intercultural understanding, eliminate racial discrimination and foster equality of opportunity through arts and culture. And the nature of the event, they say, was not fully disclosed to us upon booking, but presumably you said we'd like to do a screening of our documentary called Think Before You Post. I'm not quite sure what more you could have given them, but what have you responded to them? What have you written back?
So it's one of those things where our main concern is to find another venue, which we've been working flat out to do. They have offered to refund us the money that we paid up front. And I hope that, and we wanted to make a fuss in the court of public opinion. Yeah. They made this decision. We think it reflects an intolerance on the part of the cultural sector more broadly, to be perfectly frank. I do note that the gentleman who emailed us notifying us that the booking had been cancelled had his pronouns in his email signature, which might tell you something about the kind of atmosphere at these organisations.
But this is a cinema, and the Rich Mix Cinema is in Bethnal. Apologies, we've got a slide today. I do apologise. The Rich Mix Cinema in Bethnal Green, East London. They've hosted some other sort of, I would say, quite controversial figures in their time. I mean, some prominent left-wing MPs being hosted. I mean, they're quite happy to have Zara Sultana there, an event in October, Time to Stop the Far Right. I mean, so I think we know where their politics lie, don't we? But I mean, can you take any legal action against them?
So it's something, of course, that we've been looking at. As I say, our main concern right now is to make sure this event goes ahead.
Yeah.
We've been
Has anyone got a
looking to find
cinema they can
venues.
screen their video? Can you get in touch with me, and we'll pass it on to Tom. But you should take legal action.
And many
because...
people have been in touch, and we thank them for it.
Oh, wonderful. But you, I mean, lots of people I've seen online have said, look, you know, it's a private business. They can choose who they want to have in their cinema and choose, you know, who they don't want to have. But actually, they couldn't say, for instance, we don't want any black people or we don't want any gay people. That would be illegal against the law. But is it not also against the law to ban people because you don't agree with their political views?
Well, this is something that we'll definitely look into. At the same time, of course, you have private venues as well within their rights to decide who they want to screen and don't. The thing I would ask them to is, once you've already committed to screening something, maybe hold to that rather than folding to pressure, whether that was internal, external, I don't know, I can only speculate. So that's really the issue here. Of course, they can screen and host whoever they want, but it surely reflects a broader intolerance if they're very prescriptive in terms of who they're willing to host and who they aren't.
Well, indeed. Well, we know a lot about this, but ironically, it comes as the Home Secretary Shahbana Mahmood has appointed Lord MacDonald to review how public order powers are applied online after a series of which she called egregious arrests. She said that officers should not be policing social media posts. This comes after Graham Linehan, the Irish comedy writer, was detained by 5 armed officers when he arrived at Heathrow. And I know who features in your documentary, Maxie Allen, who's a producer at Times Radio, and his partner, Rosalind Levine, wrongfully arrested by 6 officers in January over emails to and about their child's school. And they've actually agreed to a £20,000 payout by the police. And that's very, very clear that the police were in the wrong there. But we keep being told, we've had Home Secretary after Home Secretary under the Tories saying, police shouldn't be doing this. And now we've got yet another Home Secretary under the Labour saying, police shouldn't be doing this. It doesn't seem to ever stop the police doing it.
It doesn't, and the police are a big part of the problem. We've seen those numbers for arrests for communication offences shoot up in recent years. But if you look at the number that actually results in convictions and sentencing, that number is going down. So this isn't just a question of the law, it's a question of how the police are choosing to apply it and applying it very overzealously. Maybe it's going to take a few more payouts, maybe it's going to take a few more court cases to force the police to do what the politicians have failed to make them do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good luck with finding a new venue. Anything we can do to help, do let us know. Tom Slater there, editor of Spiked Online. Talks a lot about cancellation, and they've been cancelled.